Everyone's been lying to you about dopamine, and it's not the thing that's keeping you distracted. I want you to think of a time where you tried to improve something in your life. Maybe you tried to exercise, study, get some work done, and it felt a little bit painful to do. This is a time where you're trying to do something good for yourself and there's no immediate reward. Times like this, I think, really help disprove the dopamine myth, which is that you have to get dopamine or feel rewarded when you're doing something that is good or that you actually like, instead of what it really is, which is just another signal for your brain to tell you this is enjoyable, this feels difficult, this is not enjoyable, this actually hurts. And when we start to see dopamine that way, it feels a lot less like you're a victim to dopamine or that you need a dopamine detox. When dopamine is just there to tell you that, yeah, I enjoy this, at least in the short term, right? Even if it has long-term consequences that are not good, or it's not even there sometimes when you're trying to do something difficult today that's going to pay off later. So if it's not a dopamine issue, then what's keeping you from staying focused? If it's not the social media giving you endless dopamine, whatever else you're doing that's giving you endless dopamine, well, we have to go a little bit upstream. Before you even get the dopamine, what is putting you in a situation where you're doing activities that are just exploiting your dopamine to get you hooked on something? Now, if you go upstream, the reason you're probably doing something dopamine heavy is because you had a thought at some point that I should go do that, or you know what, this would be really good to do right now, or really fun, or really enjoyable. And if we go upstream even more, were you the one that produced that thought, or did it just kind of appear? The same way that if I move this phone around, things in the background might appear or disappear, but I'm not the one doing it. It just kind of happens, right? Now that we're at our thoughts, we can actually tackle the real issue, and that's going to be how you're handling these thoughts when they arise in your mind. And so we don't get off on the wrong foot with your ideas and thoughts. Yeah, sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not as helpful, or sometimes they come at the wrong time, right? Like you might want to do something fun, but you're trying to get work done right now and it's not the time to think about that. So how should you handle these when you're trying to get something done? Maybe you're studying, you're working, whatever it is that you're trying to focus on. Well, there's actually nothing to do. You just let the thoughts arise. Maybe you acknowledge them. Maybe you're like, yeah, that would be really fun. And then you just move on. You don't do anything. You don't react to it. As soon as you react, you're kind of giving. And that's where you start to slip, right? You start to get distracted. If you think about the task you're doing you're kind of holding on like this. And as soon as you get a distracting thought, you're letting go. You're not noticing this happen in the background, but it's happening. You're letting go, and then suddenly you're distracted and you lost focus, right? So when you are focused, if you don't react to that thought, if you don't even acknowledge it, you never let your finger go of the task that you're actually trying to get done, and you can stay focused. Now that's part one, but there is a second part to staying focused, and that's what do you do after you get this random thought or distraction? Well, you actually have to continue on the task that you're currently doing and just continue progressing at it. Do the next thing, and then suddenly your focus goes from shifted back to aligned with exactly what you're trying to get done. Now at this point, this might not seem very convincing to you. It might make sense, but you're like, dopamine, I'm so addicted to scrolling TikTok, listening to music or whatever. Whatever distraction is enjoyable. And I don't mean to put like a negative light on those things. By all means, when you're free and you have nothing to do, you can do whatever you want, right? But we're trying to stay focused. So when it comes to focus and when it comes to dopamine and all these activities that are so much more fun, so much more enjoyable, right? Because focusing might actually hurt. It might hurt your brain to focus and learn something new, because that's just kind of how it is, I guess, right? You're essentially putting more stress on your body to do something it's not finding very enjoyable, but it has to get done. Sometimes there's just no other way. You have to study for your exams, you have to get your work done, or you're not gonna get the things done. Some people might call this discipline, but I wanna break it down to an even simpler thing. And that's the idea that you have to enjoy what you're doing. And this might sound a little odd to you because nobody ever mentions this, I feel. But the task that you're doing doesn't need to provide you a reward. The only value that a task has is that you decided to do it and that you're going to do it. That's all it has to do. At some point, you just had to make the decision, this is the task I want to get done today, and you don't need anything else. You don't need the task to produce dopamine while you're doing it. You don't need it to have any rewards. The reward for you, if there's any reward, it's whatever comes after you complete the task. So when you think about it, the reason you're getting distracted as well is not just because you're giving into the thoughts, but also because you have an idea that somehow whatever you're doing in the moment has to give you an immediate reward or some sort of reward. But there is no reward. The only thing on your mind should be finishing the task. You're the one that set out to do the task. If you're not happy with the task, plan your life better, do something else. But if you decided this is the task I need to get done, I need to study, I need to work, then that should be the only thing on your mind, getting the task done. It's very robotic, but that's how you have to think about it if you have to focus. Focusing is not supposed to be fancy or some super fun thing. You might enjoy what you're doing, but most of the time you're having trouble focusing because you are not really enjoying what you're doing. It's a very tedious task. It's actually making you use all of your neurons to actually get the thing done. And that's typically why we avoid things, right? Like I'll say it, right? In other tasks, I could focus on my work and get past the dopamine traps and all that, but I might not be getting myself to work out, right? Maybe I've done it in the past, but for some reason, I might think in my mind that, oh, it has to have a reward or something, right? But that's the completely wrong thought process. If I want to get it done, you also have to think, is getting it done and not enjoying it or even knowing why you're doing it, is that better than doing nothing? Will you feel better about yourself in the end if you just did the thing, tried it, no matter what the outcome ended up being, than if you just sat around and wondered, what if I was like disciplined and actually worked out? What if I was disciplined and actually did my studying? What if I was disciplined and actually pursued that business idea? But anyways, I don't mean to get into how to make good decisions for life or how to pick the task. I just wanted to really help you dispel the myth that you're stuck in a dopamine trap, that you need a dopamine detox, that you need to cut off social media, that for some reason you need a reward every time you're doing something for it to be the right thing. The only qualification for something being the right thing to do right now is that you decided that that's what you want to do. There doesn't have to be any extra fancy rewards or anything that comes with it. That's how you get distracted. Yeah, other things have tons of rewards. You could scroll infinitely and get a reward every minute, But that's not what it's about. It's about getting the task done. And once you get yourself to that point, it's going to be a lot easier. Now, there is other things that go into it, like recovery and actually being able to know when you're tired, when you're just not feeling it today, or if you need to take a break. These are things that I can get to in another video. So if you want another video on how to sustain your focus, then let me know in the comments because that's definitely a whole different part of it. But at least with this video, you should be able to go, I should probably not entertain my distractions. Just cut it at the start. And then you never have to worry about dopamine because you never did the dopamine activities, right? You could do them in your free time. That's fine. But when you're trying to stay focused, the task is the only thing on your mind. It doesn't have to be rewarding. The only authority the task has is that you decided this is what I'm going to finish or what I'm going to do. And that's all there is to it. So get it done. It doesn't have to be fancy. There's no dopamine involved. Dopamine's out of the equation. Distractions are out of the equation. The task is the thing that has to get done. And yeah, it's very robotic. But that's usually how it goes when you're trying to get stuff done. And hey, hopefully you're doing something that's at least somewhat enjoyable or something that you think will pay off. We're not trying to make ourselves, be in some sort of prison here, being disciplined and focused. But anyways, I think that's everything I can add in this video. If you want to see more videos, continuing on the same focus and how to sustain focus, let me know in the comments. If we drop a community, maybe we get some people together that want to improve and be more productive with their time, then maybe I'll make a Discord and drop it in the description. And yeah, everything that I'm talking about is usually really well researched. A lot of this information is backed by research papers. So if I have sources for many of the things I listed here, then I'll try to put those in the description for you as well if you want some deeper reading. But that's all. Definitely subscribe and let's build something great.